In this video, we are going to cover the anatomy of the humerus, this being your upper arm bone. I'm going to follow along with our terms here on the left, and as we go, hopefully give you some tips on how to remember which structures are which, and also talk a little bit about the orientation, whether we are on the anterior, posterior, medial versus lateral sides. So to start off, we're going to look at the head of the humerus. Okay, this is going to be this rounded portion here. We are on the medial side of our humerus, and the head of the humerus is going to fit into and against the glenoid fossa of our scapula, like such. So we know our shoulder is a ball and socket joint, and so the head is going to serve as the ball of that joint. So that's how we know that the head is medial. And just like you have a neck holding up your head, the humerus has this line going along here that we call the anatomical neck, which is kind of like the neck to the head of the humerus. If we flip to the lateral side, we have two bumps here. One is larger than the other, and the larger of them is going to be called the greater tubercle, the smaller being the lesser tubercle. Keep in mind the word protuberance is going to influence tubercle, so that's why we're looking at these bumps. Okay, tubercle comes from protuberance for bump. In between those tubercles, we have a groove. I'm not sure how well we can see that on the video. Because it runs in between the two tubercles, it's our intertubercular groove. And then finally, we are now at the end of the epiphysis of this long bone, so where it kind of comes to an end and we start onto the shaft of the humerus. This area, where I'm kind of drawing this circumference here, is the surgical neck. So I know that can be a little tricky since there's two of them, but the anatomical neck is going to be directly against the head. The surgical neck is going to be at the start of the shaft. Okay. We're going to move towards the distal end of our humerus, and I like to kind of think of this as like a little bow tie. And so just like, you wear a tie on the front, this is the anterior side of our humerus because we're looking at its bow tie. It's a little bit fancy. And as you come down the shaft, you kind of have these ridges here that are above our epicondyles, and because of that, they are supracondylar ridges. Okay, so above the condyle ridges, supracondylar ridges. And we have two epicondyles. Okay, one is much more pronounced than the other. The larger of them is going to be the medial condyle, medial epicondyle, and that is on the same side as the head. So the head is medial, which makes this the medial epicondyle. The other side is lateral. I think of littler, even though I don't think that's a word. Littler. But lateral, littler epicondyle. If we're looking at the bow tie, we have two features here. One is the rounded side. One is this pointy side. The pointy side is called the trochlea because it's pointy like a T. And the rounded side is the capitulum, rounded like a C. So those are just ways that I try to remember them. Pointy like a T, rounded like a C. We have the trochlea and we have the capitulum. Additionally, on the anterior side, we have this fossa. Remember, fossa means depression. And this fossa is going to be named for the feature of the ulna that fits with it. And let me grab an ulna here. So this here is the coronoid process of the ulna. You'll see that it fits right in there in that little fossa. So that's the coronoid fossa. I'm going to try and let this focus. Coronoid fossa. On the posterior side, you have a much larger fossa. This is going to correspond with our olecranon process of our ulna. And so this here is going to be our olecranon fossa. And that's it for the humerus.